friends. Thanks for joining me for another episode of A Drink from Upstream. And today's devotional is a hope for many of you, timely, and I'm directing it specifically to parents who have children or teenagers at home. And I'm doing this because many of you are starting a brand new school year, and it is in a very unorthodox way. You're not sending your kids to school. Your kids are doing school from home. And so everybody's in this online learning mode. And many of you parents are feeling faint about this. You're feeling weary and you feel like you do not have the strength for this. And I would say that very well may be true, but you don't have to stay in that place. You can receive what you need from God to do what is before you. You will be able to be successful at this because God is faithful. So this is what I want to do. I want to bring you to Isaiah chapter 40 and remind you of who God is and the great promise that he has given to you as one of his children. So it starts out in verse 28 of Isaiah 40 with a couple of rhetorical questions, and this is what he says. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. So he begins with telling us, reminding us of who God is. Notice he doesn't begin with us, he begins with God, and that's a really great place for us, okay? So we're told about this God. He's the everlasting God. He's the creator of the ends of the earth. Now it says, he does not faint or grow weary, and his understanding is unsearchable. So this everlasting God never gets tired. He has an unlimited amount of understanding and strength. So that's our basis. That's where we begin. And now the prophet goes on and talks about us as people. And he says, verse 29, this everlasting God gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. So first, it's just this acknowledgement that as human beings, at times we are faint, at times we are weak, and we are tired, and we feel powerless, and we don't feel like we have the might or the strength to do what's before us that we really have to do. And the reality is, we at times are that way. We don't have what we need, and that's why we start with God. And so this everlasting God, who himself never grows weary, who himself does not lack understanding, is all understanding, he gives power to those who are faint and to those who need strength. He increases their strength. And now in verse 30, the prophet begins to tell us how this happens. So he says, even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. The youths grow faint and weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But, verse 31, but they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So here we have the great promise of God, founded upon the character of God, that even when we're tired, even when we're weary, we know that we are not we don't have to conjure up things within ourselves. We can go to our source. We can go to God. And if we wait for the Lord, and that word wait for the Lord, wait right there, it means it's kind of like you take different strands and bind them together to make a really strong rope. You bind them together. That's what it means. Those who bind themselves to the Lord. So when we're weary, when we feel like we have no strength, when we have no might, we bind ourselves to the Lord, and he in turn then gives power to us, and he increases our strength. When we wait upon him, he renews our strength. And so here's what I would encourage you to do. Yes, the school year is a challenge. Yes, having kids at school, at home, doing their schooling is a great challenge. And you're tired, you're weary, you don't know if you can make it, but I'm telling you, you can. You can do it because God is your source. So wait upon him. Make sure and take time before you start the day, before you get about the busyness of the day, to call upon the Lord, to tell him you love him, to confess your need to him, to tell him how much you just got to walk with him and you've got to bind yourself to him. And do that with your family as well. Start the day with prayer. I know it seems like such a simple thing, but do it. Start the day with prayer. Bind yourselves to the Lord. And when you find yourself weary, when you find that you just don't feel like you've got it within you, don't try to pretend like you do. Make sure you go back to the source, to God, and say, okay, God, I'm waiting upon you. I'm waiting upon you. I need you to renew my strength. And you'll find that he'll do that. You'll mount up with wings like eagles. You'll walk and not be weary. You'll run and not faint because God is faithful to you. Okay? God bless you.